Hey, hey, hey. Welcome to Talk.Therapy.Heal. Join us today for a great show, still talking about relationships, but more so how to repair. Come on out, gleam, like, share, hit the notification button.
Yes.
Hello, everyone. I'm Kenya King, licensed professional counselor associate, supervised by Unica Willis.
Hi, I'm Rachel Logan, a licensed clinical social worker.
Hey, hey, hey. Larisha Perlow, licensed marriage and family therapist.
Hey, y'all, I am Unica Willis, licensed professional counselor supervisor.
Hello, everyone. My name is Shetra King. I'm a licensed professional counseling associate supervised by Miss Unica Willis. And so, as Larisha was speaking, we are going to get into relationships. So, another show on relationships, but looking at it from a different angle. So, our topic that we're going to be talking about during this show is how to repair broken relationships. But there are, if we be honest, a lot of relationships that are starting to separate, break, whether it be family, coworkers, organizations, and different things like that. So we're going to really get into that on the show.
Mm-hmm. I feel like I just want to take this from a trauma identity perspective real quick, y'all. Just in dealing with past traumas can unknowingly influence our reactions and relationships, leading to misunderstandings and conflicts. So when we have experienced like a trauma or something that's happened to us, it influences how we show up or respond in relationships. So things can be broken and we not even understand why, or we walk away because we don't know how to repair that thing. We don't know what to do. That traumatic thing that we've experienced is taking its toll on us, and we don't know how to communicate, if you will, what is taking place, what has happened, and or communicate that to the person. And we just decide, like what they say, ghost them. We decide
Ghosting.
we decide to ghost because I don't know how to come and tell you what I'm really truly feeling or what I really truly experienced. What's y'all thoughts on that as it relates to trauma?
What comes to my mind is this. Even though we're talking about broken relationships, I believe that a lot of people do not want to realize that they're actually broken because of their trauma. So how can I say I love you? How can I say that I could be there for you and all these things? Because if I'm not willing to identify my brokenness because of my trauma, and some people will, in order for acceptance, because I didn't get accepted when I tried to tell or share, or people belittle me and said I should get over it, because a lot of people are saying that now. It's like, oh, okay, then I'll lose my identity and try to be everything that everybody else want me to be because I'm broken, because of my trauma. Sorry, so early in the show, but that's what I was thinking.
All right. So how we gonna follow up on that?
Sorry.
I know. I was just going to say, since we're talking about like the repair piece of the broken relationship, let's define repair.
Okay.
So I have something I want to share just real quick. It's a process of reconciliation through apology and forgiveness. Repair tips include confiding, admitting, and comforting. Confiding, admitting, and comforting.
Can you go back to the first part where you said something about
reconciliation?
and forgiveness.
Through apology and forgiveness.
So a process of reconciliation through apology and forgiveness. So is that coming, would you say then, from the perspective of the person who I guess is the initiator to breaking the relationship, or they are the one affected by the broken relationship?
Well, I mean, it could definitely go either way. But the hope would be the one that caused the rupture or the one that caused the pain, betrayal, trauma, whatever it might be, would be the one to initiate. But that's definitely not always the case.
Right. I think some people, like Shannon said, they don't realize whether it's trauma or any other reason that they did something to break the relationship. So the first thing is probably being able to identify what broke this in the first place. And then that person has to be able to accept that accountability, because I can say something to Shan that can hurt her feelings. I'm not meaning to it, but we have this thing called intent versus impact. My intent may be one thing, how it impacted an individual could be something else.
Wow.
And so if that affected that individual in a negative way, I have to take ownership for that.
Okay, but really, do you? Because can you really control how she's impacted by your statement if that wasn't your intent?
I don't think you can control it, but sometimes we inadvertently hurt people who we think we're saying something that's supposed to be beneficial to them. It can be very harmful. And so a part of the healing process for that individual is to recognize that it's for someone to recognize maybe it was me. Maybe it's not completely them, but I made you feel a certain way. That was not my intent. So tell me how you feel, maybe why you feel that way. Now I know the avenues of approach, the way I should say something to her or the way I should not say something to her. Now, if you put it back on her, if there is something that she never told me about that offended her in some type of way, she has to communicate that. So it's going to take both individuals communicating about the brokenness to try to fix everything together. And I think that's where a lot of relationships fall apart at, because we're really not willing to sit down and talk and take accountability for our role in it.
Okay, and thank you for clearing it up, because I'm sitting here thinking like, there is no way that you can know what you're going to say is going to affect the person in a way that it does. And they could be affected based upon whatever their experiences were in the past, or what they're going through in that moment. And so to try to talk, and I think this is something that people maybe realize or don't realize in relationships, especially trying to repair them, they try to make sure they don't say the wrong thing. So then they're silent and don't speak out on what's really bothering them. Or if they say something, they're kind of holding up, oh, how they gonna say?
Yeah.
Oh my God, is it gonna be okay? If it's not gonna be okay, because I don't want to offend you, I don't want to hurt you. But you can't speak freely or truthfully worried about how it's going to affect somebody, because you're not them. You're not in their mindset, in their heart, in their space to know how that thing is going to affect. But I think going back to kind of like your point is she has to communicate if a thing was, she felt like something was said wrong to her or hurtful and things like that. But if she never says anything, then there's no need for you to feel bad about what you're saying or what you've done. Right.
So I think that communication creates a different level of intimacy. When we sit down and we talk about the problems that are in hand and the things that are going on, when we're open and honest and we say these things out of our mouth, not shutting down, running off in the room, or shutting down, well, I ain't talking to you today, or for 5 or 8 days or whatever, you get nowhere. The best thing to do is just talk about it, get out there. That way we both know what is being said. And at that point, you maybe start working on repairing those things. But we never get to that point if we're not just being adults and talking about the problem at hand.
What are some injuries, right? So when you think about broken, you think about an injury done or something that has cracked a relationship. So what have you guys seen in your practice working with couples or just individuals? What are some other types of injuries do relationships experience?
Lying,
infidelity, loss of connection, loss of trust.
Yeah, definitely the trust part. Trust covers such a big, broad spectrum. Like it could be something. I know I've seen this one. I trusted you. I gave you $300 to pay a bill, but that ain't much you use $300 for. Now we're in a financial situation. Bam, bam, bam.
And I think what I've seen is the repeated behavior.
Yes.
Because a lot of times individuals in relationship, regardless of what type of relationship is, if we've sat down, as we were just talking about, so Kenya says, he said something, he didn't mean to hurt me, but then I turn around and we have that conversation, that dialogue, and I'm like, okay, yes, they did hurt me, whatever the case may be. We agree, because he's now aware that when you speak to me in this manner, it hurts me, it makes me feel away. Okay, now both of us understand that, but it's when you continue to repeat the cycle and say, oh, I'm sorry, and then you do it again. and say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I need to." Or think about this: the cycle of abuse that we know and deal with in counseling. When someone has been abused, and then it goes through the honeymoon phase and all that. You know what I'm saying? You are repeatedly doing, and that's what really probably led to the brokenness of this relationship. So I guess in that take, as I'm thinking about it, when I sat down with a client, okay, what would you like to do with this going forward? Because we already see the hamster wheel. We already see this is a cycle, and sometimes as therapists, we see even deeper than that, but they may not be ready to accept that. We only got them to accept the hamster wheel. You know what I'm saying? So what do you want to do moving forward? Otherwise, you're going to remain stuck. And then having to make, clients generally having to make the hard decision, because we don't make it for you all. We don't do that. We walk alongside of you. Keep that in mind. So making the hard decision of, do I continue in this cycle when the person that I'm in the cycle with is not willing to change their behavior? Or do I go and discontinue myself from this? You cool. I don't have no problems with you. But I think when I think about a bone that's been broken. It's been fractured. You got the x-ray and all that. They may put the pins in there to hold it together. You're in a cast. You riding around on the little scooter with your leg up. Sorry, I'm a visual person. You know what I'm saying? But the reality is this. The bone will never go back together 100% like it did, but just because it doesn't. If a person says, "I understand you, Kenya, I'm so sorry. I'll try my best not to ever do it again." You can't say you never do it again because you never know. But I'll try my best not to ever do it. And they work. It's the actions. Because when it comes to broken relationships, a lot of times it's the words. People say what they say to pacify just to get by. Right. But it's the actions. And after you get tired of hearing the words, then guess what? Let's see what this fruit is about. Because right now you're lying to me because you done said it 8 or 9 times. So that's why this relationship is not prospering and going forward, whatever the relationship may be.
Sometimes I don't think people are lying.
You think they're like telling the truth about it?
I ain't gonna say they're telling the truth.
So what they doing?
I'm not gonna say they're lying. I think what they do is some people try to pacify an individual for the moment. I'm tired of arguing with you. I'm tired of going through this. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna tell you, but then when that same thing happens again, now that person's like, "You just broke me again," but it was never really no resolve in the first place. You just went along to get along, and that's why you keep going through that same broken cycle over and over again. I think individuals really have to have intentionality. What is your intention? If you're saying we're going to work on this and get this right, then let's work on it and get it right. Because if it's just going to keep going back and forth again, everybody's on that same wheel.
So how do you restore?
I think it starts with an apology.
Yes.
There's research out there about the anatomy, of an apology and like what that looks like, how somebody's supposed to, walk through it. And so it definitely first starts with like accountability. You know what I mean? Acknowledging that there was a wrongdoing, you know what I mean, in the situation. And then there's the validation of the feelings of the person that you hurt. And then to extend that, there's the change. I think you said in one of our earlier sessions, but the change in behavior, you know what I mean, following that apology so that person is able to receive it in sincerity. And then forgiveness is, definitely a whole other animal.
Right.
But the apology and forgiveness, 2 separate things. But maybe the apology needs to happen first. You know what I mean?
So that's when you were talking about that definition, and we talk about this in supervision about apologies or asking for forgiveness. It being, and not so much as the apology, but the act of asking for forgiveness can be a form of manipulation, because you're asking somebody to forgive you for something that you did when you have no intent on making any changes.
Wow.
So I'm asking you to forgive me for doing what I did. But the real thing here is change behavior. What are you going to do to change? Because like you said, you can keep coming and you kind of on that hamster wheel. I'm going to keep doing it because, oh, you accepted my apology. You forgave me.
Mhm.
So if I say, I forgive you for, I don't know, calling me out of my name. And so you're like, okay, whew, good. I'm good.
Mhm.
The next time you call me out of my name, then you come and say, forgive me. I'm so sorry for calling out your name. And I forgive you again. Which one of us crazy?
Mhm. Yeah.
Really, which one of us is crazy? We're not seeing a changed behavior. So I could see forgiveness or asking for forgiveness is a form of manipulation where we're asking somebody to forgive us. Apologize for your behavior. And I think that's the difference. Apologizing for your behavior and making necessary changes, being intentional about your change so that they see the difference.
But, you know,
Wow.
it's the how.
Mhm.
You know, people don't know how to do the how
Mhm.
piece of it.
Yeah.
You know, and they could say, I'm sorry, please forgive me. You know, I apologize or whatever, you know what I mean, that statement might be, but they don't know how to change their behavior.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Because maybe it's a pattern that's
It's
they've
just
seen,
yeah.
that's in there.
Embedded in them.
Perfect example. I think at one point we mentioned an emotionally unavailable partner, right? So that emotionally unavailable partner is connected to a partner that wants, you know what I mean, the intention. Well, if there is a conflict, that emotionally unavailable partner distances themselves from that person that needs that care and that affection. That person says, when you distance yourself, this is how it makes me feel. And that person says, I'm sorry. You know what I mean? They apologize for it. But then it happens again because they don't have the how.
Could it also be kind of a tie back to trauma
And
and
attachment.
identity as well?
Mhm.
So let's say client A is a male and his spouse says every time we go somewhere, he's always skinning and grinning with other women. I don't like that. He says, well, I'm sorry, I won't do that again. And he really means that he doesn't want to do it again, but then he turns around and does it again because it's connected to his past and what he saw his dad do with his mom. And the same thing could be with the female. She's taking resentment to that because maybe her mother went through that exact same thing and she saw it. And so not only is she trying to get healing for herself, she's trying to get healing for her mom too.
So I think that's why it's important to recognize the role of trauma in the relationship dynamics so that you can start the healing and repair process. Because if you don't recognize that trauma even exists or that there's something that is causing this to happen, then you won't take notice. It's like, again, becoming aware of what's going on with you so that you can address it. But if there's no awareness, there's no addressing.
Absolutely.
Let me kind of throw, it's still in the same vein, but throw a little spin that sometimes I see what people do and, you know, they do. And I think, okay, y'all can say whether y'all think it's two parts to it or whatnot. When an individual has been in a traumatic relationship, okay, I've seen oftentimes where whether it be the dad that feel a kind of way. So say they're married. So say it's a married couple, right? And the dad is like, or the husband is like, say the woman emasculates him. Because that's a lot that's going on in this day and time. But she emasculate him because of her trauma of what she's seen. I seen my dad abuse my mom, you know, You're not going to do me like that. But y'all have children. So saying he gets tired of being emasculated and talked down to and belittled because he's supposed to be the head of his home. And then he steps out of the marriage. So then she's crushed, the wife. And have y'all ever seen it to where, whether it be, you know, you in a counseling room or if it was, you know, family or friends or whatever the case may be, people you may know, that they then feel like they can't talk to anyone else, so they talk to their kids about it.
Yeah.
So we talk about broken relationships, right?
Yeah.
But let's say in this case, the husband or wife, either or whoever, whatever, feel like they're not doing any wrong. But when the spouse is not around, I'm talking to my kids about, yeah, your daddy made me feel like this. See, I heard what these women doing, da da da, and I'm here trying to do A, B, C, D, E, or vice versa. He's saying, well, your mama treat me like I'm nothing, and she treat me like I'm dirt. So the kids love their mom and they love their dad. But now I'm carrying the weight as a child, as children, because I don't fully understand this. Even if I was to talk to my siblings, none of us know what this means because this is grown folks stuff. You know how they say stay out of grown folks' business? This should be a business y'all could keep yourself in. So then the child then grows up, and I think the mom and dad, husband, wife don't realize you're creating future broken relationships for your children.
I don't even think it's a future broken relationship. You just broke another one and brought the kids into it.
True, but then think about when they get into a relationship, or if they say, I'm not dating nobody because I seen my daddy do my mom like this and my mama did da 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 da. So you thinking, oh, I'm good, I'm keeping it in the house, what goes on in this house, but you're dumping it on children who are not mature enough to understand, or they can't even live their life because a lot of children feel like I have to take on the responsibility of my parent. What is it? Parentification.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think as adults, I know people need help. That's why we have counselors that are present.
Right.
If you notice that the relationship was broken, then who decided to get into the relationship? The adults. They should be the ones having the conversations. Kids should be left out of it.
Right.
Unless it's going to be family counseling of some sort. And then the work needs to be done between that husband and the wife. And in some cases, they may have to split and do some single individual counseling, because a lot of this time it ain't even the wife's fault. It's all about the husband, or vice versa. You've got to start recognizing yourself, like Nick says, learn who you are, and then you bring those individuals back together in an effort to mend that point that was broken. Maybe the wife never knew that he saw this as a child. Maybe he never realized what she saw as a child. Now you guys working with one another, that's where you have to do the hard work to really make what you are trying to mend together actually sit.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's a challenge for a lot of people. Past traumas hinder open communication and trust building because we don't want to deal with our stuff. Either we don't make the time for it. We won't sit still long enough to deal with it, but then it comes out in the relationships that we have that we don't know how to have a relationship, a long-term relationship with anybody, because one, we were never taught, and then we don't even know what it is that we really want. So if I say, I want you to love me, if I say, Larissa, I want you to be my friend, what's my definition of being a friend? Because your definition of being a friend might be different than mine. And then if you're saying that you're being that friend to me and I don't deem it as you being a friend because my definition is different, then I'm going to say, well, she ain't my friend. She ain't there for me.
So I wonder, like, let's switch the scenario. Like, what if it's like a mother-in-law and her daughter-in-law and there's a break or injury in their relationship, right? How do you begin to repair? Because I've seen it where there's the daughter-in-law and the mother-in-law where the relationship is broken, or the father-in-law and the son. Like there's so many scenarios that we can make, but can we give the audience like practical steps? I know we talked about forgiveness, but how do you begin to have a conversation with someone that's not your spouse?
That's the thing. Have an open, non-judgmental communication, and it creates for a safe space. But it has to be open and non-judgmental. Showing up, having somebody to mediate if you can't communicate with one another. If the communication between you is too heated, bring in a non-biased party. To mediate for you. And this is one of the best things. Active listening.
Yes.
Practice active listening. What does active listening mean? It's not that you're listening to respond. You're not listening to whatever has triggered you so that you can come at somebody and tell them how you feel, and I'm going to keep it real and keep it 100 and keep it a buck, and I'm going to tell you what I need to know. You ain't listening. You ain't listening. Active listening is where you can take time and sit there, hear what they say, read and say it back to them to get clarification, to make sure that whatever you heard was the right thing that you heard, and give them an opportunity to say yes or no, and then you respond.
Yes.
It's a dialogue. Yes. Let me just tell you how I feel.
Right.
But let's get to a resolution.
Exactly. And that's one of the things I tell my clients all the time is, when you go and sit down and have a talk with somebody about whatever it is that you need to have a talk with them, make sure that you have a solution. Don't ever have a conversation and there's no solution. You don't know how you're going to get up from the thing. What is the outcome that you're seeking? Have that in mind before you sit down to have the conversation. I think that produces for more effective communicating. It produces for healing in relationships, repairing relationships, because now you all have a clear idea of where this thing is going. And sometimes, let's be honest, that sometimes there's no clear goal and that the thing is to dissolve it.
Right.
And that's okay.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's okay.
And that's the resolution.
That's the
That's the
resolution. And we're going to dissolve.
And that's something that was very hard for me to take on when I had a first couple client that Shannon and I had. And, you know, they come in and said they're having issues. They're trying to figure out if they want to get married. They got kids, this, that, and other. And when they came back and said, well, we appreciate you guys. You guys are really good, but we just decided not to get married. I was crushed. Early on in counseling, I'm like, man, we ain't successful. And my supervisor tells us that ain't your job.
Right.
You did what you were supposed to do, and they realized that they weren't supposed to be together. Look at it this way: you just kept two people from getting divorced.
That's right.
And sometimes that's what we have to understand as counselors, that we do our part. They got to make up their mind what they're going to do. We can't force anything upon them. I think the other thing that we have to kind of take a look at is, in some of those situations, some of the people just want to be right. That's why they can't get to a point where they can make a decision. They just want to be right. I don't care what you done said, what you done apologized for, blah, blah. I just want you to tell me that you was wrong. And they never move past that, because that's all they're looking for, is for that other person, in a sense, to be beneath them. Let me knock you down a notch.
Wow.
It's not love.
It's not love, friendship, or nothing.
Yeah. Rachel, you asked about giving those tools and things that people can utilize to, to get to that resolution, or to overcome, if you will. And one of the things, and I know we use this in the counseling room a lot, is using I statements to communicate your feelings. That helps you to not place blame.
Right.
If you think about it, when you say you made me, that's the finger point. You point.
Right.
And whenever you're pointing your finger at somebody, they are coming for the defense. They are ready for you. But if you are using I statements, nobody can argue with you about how you feel.
Right.
That's true.
So
It's your
I
feeling.
feel that when you said this, that was a direct attack against me.
Yes.
And then if that person comes back and said, well, no, that wasn't an attack, I was just trying to show you this, then it's I.
That
Right.
creates that open dialogue, and now you're communicating effectively.
Right.
Effectively communicating, and you're not communicating to respond. You're not arguing. There's no heated discussions or intense fellowships.
Right.
I like that intense moments of patience.
You're actually owning your stuff. And I think that's really important when we're trying to foster healing and repairing in relationships.
Right.
There's a lot of things that I feel like are misunderstandings. And I think we talked about this in another show where we were discussing, it was a definition that we gave, but it was like a misunderstanding of something, not having the full knowledge, if you will, of what really took place.
Right.
And so it has really torn apart or torn up the fact that you had a relationship with this person all because of a misunderstanding. And how do we rectify misunderstandings? We got to talk about it.
I want to just add too, like, talk to God about it.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, take this into prayer first, right? God, what do you see? You know, what's from your perspective about this situation? How should I approach this? Like, get the help from the Heavenly Father.
Yes.
Who knows the ins and outs about you and the other person. So the scripture here, James 4:1 says, what causes fights and quarrels among you? don't they come from your desires that battle within? So your desire to be right. You desire but do not have, so you kill. You covet, but you cannot get what you want, so you quarrel and fight. You don't have because you do not ask God.
Wow. You have not because you asked.
Yeah.
So, oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no. That phrase, right? We think about it like, oh, let me ask for this. Let me ask. No, he's talking about relationship.
Right.
So go find it in the word, but ask him for that revelation. Why am I fighting?
Right.
What is the real issue here? Is it the desire to be right, to be seen, or to be heard? But more importantly, let me go ask God.
Yeah.
I think, and that reminds me too of the scripture that talks about if you have an ought with your brother, go discuss it with your brother. Go and discuss it with that person. Discuss. Talk. Discuss so that you can come to a resolution. But I think a lot of times the reason why we don't, or the reason why the relationship ends up being broken, is because we take it to other people. And we talk about it to everybody else. And we go to social media. And we put it out there for the world to see, and then get mad when people comment. Don't put it out there. You know, if you have an issue with somebody, take it to them. Talk to them about it. Effectively communicate. Right? The Bible does not teach us to go and quarrel and argue with one another or to cut people off. I remember I used to say this personally, y'all. My cut game is strong. Woo, it's strong. I will cut you off without a second thought. Not even I'm then gonna give you a first thought for real. That's just how quick I'm cutting you off. The moment I feel like you have crossed me, it's done. And I'm like, Nikki, that ain't what God wants you to do. What are you doing? Fix that. Fix that. But it had to be something that I had to take to God. He had to show me. I had to ask for forgiveness for myself. And I had to do something different. I had to take action and change my behavior. Now, I'm not going to tell you that my cut game ain't there. I just take it to God first.
And then actually wait to see what he said. So one of the things I had an individual ask me this question. So what happened is that they went to counseling, they processed and worked through their stuff. And when trying to reconnect with a friend and family and those around them, they noticed that they were trying to have conversation, but it was different. And so this individual felt like, why did I do all this work? Why did I come see a counselor? Why did I try to change and all that if the people around me are not even willing to have communication with me and things like that? And so I remember sharing with this individual, I said, well, this is something that you have to understand. And this is what I hope you all catch as well. People communicate to the level in which they are at. So that's just like using the illustration, a baby. We're sitting up here having this dialogue on a collegiate level. You know, we all have these degrees and been to school and therapists and stuff. That's just like going and I'm holding our 4-month-old, 5-month-old, maybe 6-month-old daughter and be like, well, this is what Mimo's trying to tell you, and I need you to understand. And she just looking like, this is going up her head.
She grinning at you and laughing.
And I'm really thinking she understanding me. And she like, if you don't get out my face. So keeping that in mind, when we do the work, we go to counseling, we work to be a better version of ourselves, you have to understand everyone is not at each other's level. But that's not to say that you're better than the next person. What that means is don't get frustrated when this person cannot have this in-depth conversation about their feelings because they may have not have done the work. Communicate to them at their level. What is one of the things, I know in family counseling, we were taught this in school. Our professor said this, and this is free. This is for free. The professor said this. Think about this. Growing up as a child, and depending on how your parents or whomever raised you was, when they would yell, they would stand over you. You're a kid. They're pointing down. They're yelling. You know, some people, you're stupid. You're ignorant. You ain't gonna never. You just like you're no good, so-and-so. And you're looking up and you seeing this giant yelling at you. They're communicating very ineffectively. But what we were taught is when you want to make a child understand, you come down to their level.
Mm-hmm.
You meet them eye to eye. I've had to do that with our grandson. You know what I'm saying? So I say that to whether it's a child or an adult, you have to come down to their level.
Mm-hmm.
You have to keep in mind and understand. A lot of times in relationships, when it comes to a broken relationship, and I'm in a relational, with the client couples, they get frustrated because you hear this phrase, "Oh, we grew apart." I used to hate that phrase before I came into the counseling practice. Why? I didn't understand it. But the reality is this: sometimes in marriage, I remember I did it when I turned 40. I don't know what it was about 40. But I was like, I'm tired of carrying all this stuff, trying to be superwoman. My professor then called me out, shout out, you know who you are, take the cape off. You know, why you trying to save everybody? First of all, sir, I'm here for supervision. You ain't supposed to be talking to me. But I couldn't do nothing but chew that. I had to take that and say, he was right. Shout out, you know who you are. And some of y'all laughing because y'all probably been told that too. However, the thing is really understanding that sometimes people do grow apart. Because I told him, I got to work on myself. I don't know what this is. This ain't got nothing to do with you. Because a lot of times in marriage, the husband or wife, well, what is it about me that you got to ride the counseling? It ain't about you. You know what I'm saying? And so it was like, I got to figure this out. It's too much. I felt like I was drowning in my own world around me. Everything was collapsing. So what happens is you may have a husband that goes and get counseling, and he's trying to become a better version of himself and get rid of all this garbage, put down that rucksack and everything that he's been carrying because he want to be better for his wife and for his children. And you may have the wife that's sitting up pretentious. Just say ouch, baby. Just say ouch. You pretentious. Oh, so you went and met your love. You know how we say, went and met your love counselor again today, huh? What you tell them about me? It's not about you. So guess what? She's here. And then he goes, and because I can't take this anymore.
Yeah. So that's when you were talking about that. And I'm glad you hit on that too, because when you said, come to their level, come down to their level. And it hit me kind of like a ton of bricks because you hear, I ain't coming down to their level. They need to come up and they thinking.
Come up to mine.
Come up
What is that humility, y'all?
Some of
Not there.
It ain't there.
yeah.
But I wanted to see if we can clarify that a little bit more, though, when we talk about coming down to somebody's level. Not that you have to emotionally or intellectually come down to somebody's level, because somebody coming at you, and I'm just gonna put it out there, with a kindergarten level education and you have a college degree. We're not saying to come down to the kindergarten. We're not saying that, but we're saying meet them where they are, and able to communicate on a level where they understand what you're saying and not using all this big language because you got all the degrees and whatnot. So you hitting them with these big words, and all it's doing is making them more defensive. So if wife and husband or wife, if you got the degrees and your spouse don't be coming at them. I'm sorry. I always say I don't tell people what to do.
King James Version, message reading.
I know, because King James and the message
get off and through there.
Smacking you in the face. That's what I say with the Message Bible. It always smacks me. I don't know about y'all, but it smacks me. So I'm going to smack y'all.
Right.
Don't be coming at your spouse with these big level of responses and thinking that they're supposed to understand you and getting mad because they don't, or spouses who don't get mad because their vocabulary is higher than yours. Do a little bit of study and do a little bit of self-reflection and find out how you can come up instead of trying to always bring them down to where you are.
Absolutely.
Because when you don't do that, that's what leads to broken relationships.
Yeah.
I think a big thing that individuals need to really take a look at is anytime you have some things that are broken, things can be broken. You got to replace the whole thing, or you got to use the same parts that you got. And in relationships, you got to use the same parts that you got. It ain't like a car. Well, the battery went bad or the alternator went down. You get a new alternator. But when it's something between the relationship, both of y'all still got to be there. And so what needs to happen, you have to spend enough time, quality time together, talking and understanding and working things out so that you put yourselves back together. And then after you do that for a while, You can't just go apart. You got to jail.
Exactly. What's that analogy that people say all the time? Don't throw the baby out
Baby out the bathwater. Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to jail for a while and let that sit and let everything resonate. That means blocking other people out, because nothing hurts me more to see that you're working as a couple to get something fixed. And then you run back over here and let somebody else pour something in you and you ain't ready to hold more together. You over here talking to your husband, okay, baby, I appreciate, I understand now I said this, or no, baby, I said something wrong too. We're both here. And then you walk right back across the girl, I yelled that China apology. The same waiting like on that. Now you're cracked again.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
What you got, Liberation?
Did you say snap?
Wow.
Business out there, all out there.
Pop.
Wow.
Wow. I was thinking of just more of just resolution, getting to that space of resolution in the middle of all of this. So when the break happens or the rupture happens, the repairing process, we've definitely talked about the repairing process, but like coming to that space of resolution, sometimes some folks want that absolute resolution or resolve for a specific problem. And truth of the matter is the resolution may look like, kind of like we mentioned a little earlier, the dissolution, of a relationship or marriage. It may look like tabling, whatever the issue, problem, point of brokenness is for a period of time, you know what I mean? And then coming back, you know what I mean, to it. So I think when we talk about like resolution, we want fix.
Right.
You know what I mean? We want a quick fix. So we want to fix to whatever the problem is or whatever the thing was that caused the break. And sometimes that's just not possible.
I wonder, we talked, like you talked about the stages of repair, but how do you maintain the repaired relationship? Does that make sense?
Yes.
I think if you realize what's broken in the first place, you stay away from those things that cause the damage. And then you constantly have to build upon strengthening that area that you were weak in. So if I said something wrong to her that damaged our relationship, if I come back and I apologize, we talk about it and we set ground rules and all that stuff, then I got to keep that same thing going, because if not, I'm going to come back and put another crack right back in the same area. And eventually you get enough cracks in there's no more super glue that's going to hold you together. You got to throw a couple more.
Okay. Listen, that gorilla glue and that gorilla tape? What? Okay, so real situation, real time scenarios. One of the things we were speaking about in the previous show was family secrets. And so now we're talking about broken relationships. So sometimes because of family secrets and things that family's not willing to identify and address, there are a lot of cracks in the family tree, if you will. And I know we were talking about be the branch and not the tree in previous shows as well. What would you all do, or how would you encourage if you had, and I know, like we see individuals, we don't see family. That's part me and this, but what would you do if you had, like we were saying in one of the other scenarios, where a portion of the family want to be family? Because whatever this issue is that the elders, because that's what it is 9 times out of 10, do not want to address, that's not our stuff. Because, families used to be like, hey, if you feel away in y'all sisters, you don't go over there and mess with, I know that is my niece and that's your cousin, but you don't have nothing to do with them. All because I just seen this on Love at Marriage Huntsville with the 2 sisters. Anybody watch that? That's a good prime example. The cousins they grew up like brothers and a brother and sister. And they're devastated. This is a good example. Thank you, God. They are devastated. So here is the cousins who are the children of these 2 sisters saying, why can't y'all get along? I mean, to the point they were like, the sisters was trying to kill each other. Oh, get that crazy so-and-so away from me. What? This your sister. And they're devastated. So then it's like the sisters get, well, why are you dealing with him? Why are you dealing with her? We're cousins that grew up like brothers. This is not our issue. So like, how would y'all help, or what would you do to encourage? Because this is real life stuff. In this year, in the previous year, especially since the pandemic and a lot of stuff came to light, what would you do to encourage people in that? What would be the steps?
I would say really first acknowledging those past hurts. And like you said, in that scenario, I know exactly what you're talking about. I watched that show. Recognizing and acknowledging what your role is in it. If you don't play a role in it, then step back from it. It's not yours.
Yeah.
Stop taking on things that don't belong to you.
Wow.
And if that's the case, if I mean, you continue on in the vein that you want, creating the relationships that you want. It's kind of like we were talking about the tree, to be the branch and not the tree. Having a tree, but then having branches that kind of come off of that. You can create a family system that, while it might have some sort of connection to the tree, it doesn't have to be that tree. So I think acknowledging that and working together towards a shared healthier future is possible.
I would say, like, for those cousins, I would still remain cousin.
Yeah.
You know, and really model and break that curse of separation, that repeated behavior. Like, no, we're not going to mimic that. We're going to do it differently. We're going to do it differently by remaining connected and talking. So I think you got to separate and be who you really are and maintain that relationship, because it's not worth losing family over some mess.
Right.
They just got to be mad by themselves. We still going on barbecues, cookouts.
Come on, keep that going. Right. Like, okay, this is a no zone. That's for y'all, but this is my family. These are my cousins.
You know what I think is very difficult? Again, talking about our generation and a lot of us, which, listen, I can't speak for the rest of my colleagues, but I am so proud that those who are in our generation are making the conscious decision to move forward in counseling, to go, to come against the grain of what we heard. We don't go. That's for people that's crazy. They don't have any counselors that look like us. That is a lie from the pits of hell. Because we got rainbows of counselors. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
Who have different specialized areas. But we seen, I can't speak for all of us, but I'm going to say collectively, I remember growing up, you had those elders that would say, y'all arguing? What? Come on in this room. Close that door. There you go. They will bring you to the table. We're going to sit down and talk this out right now. And then it was funny because you're like, man, we grown. You punking me like I'm a child. You know what I'm saying? But once you finish, the elder or elders, the tribunal was like, you apologize, you stand up, you hug each other, you tell each other you love each other because you're family. Yeah. We don't have that anymore. Those elders, for most of us, are now ancestors. So with us, now we're starting to take that reign of the family, if you will. Some of us parents are still living, some are not, but then what I find with our generation, a lot of us, it's having to skip that generation. Y'all, like we were saying with the sisters, y'all deal with that with y'all. Don't even tell me about auntie. I don't even want to hear it. Don't even tell me. And then getting together with the cousins and everybody in our generation down saying, this we're going to do. We're going to have a family reunion. We'll have a picnic. We're going to have a family vacation.
That would be great and lovely, but you find so many families that are out there who can't look over or look past that. If you, and I hear this, if she don't like your mama, then she don't like you.
Wow.
And that's kind of like the thing that goes with it. If she don't like your mama, then she can't possibly like you. Why not? If your mama did something wrong to me, then why can't I not like her but like you? Did you do something wrong to me? But then it's been that sense of togetherness, community. We come together on the wrong things. We don't come together with positive things, positivity. We kind of like the whole thing of different types of groups. And I know what I'm saying, but I can't get the thought out, and maybe y'all can help me. But there's when you come together, you have people who come together for certain reasons and certain seasons, and then when that thing is over with, they go. So if we have a common goal, we got something in common, then we can fight together. But once that thing is reached, we're good. It's separate. It's over. And I think that's what people are coming together on, a collective negative mindset. Coming together as a community and not trying to fix things, but coming together to further the negativity and the trauma within the family. And I'm just going to be honest, I see it a lot within my family. And it's like, why can't we all come together as cousins and do things? What is really the issue that is there? And we talk about generational curses. That stuff is real.
Yes.
That stuff
People
is
pretend it's
real.
not.
It is so real that we deal with it every single day. But then you're denial and you're in denial of it, and you act as if it doesn't exist, and it's running rampant in the family. And it's like, if we were to acknowledge it and address it, then maybe we can get past it and heal some of these broken relationships that we have.
Right.
But people are not on it. They're not for that, because I guess it wouldn't give you the drama. There would be no drama.
Yeah.
No dysfunction.
Some people are drama driven.
Yes, and they know how to operate outside of dysfunction. Yeah, that's their the motivated thing. They function, they thrive in drama and dysfunction. And for some people who don't, the ones that I'm seeing who are like, you know what, I need to fix this. I need to go to counseling. I'm seeing that a lot in the 40-something-year-old women that I'm seeing coming to counseling. I'm tired. I'm tired of living this way. And maybe it's just one in that family that has chosen that because they're tired.
Right.
And I'm just like, when will we all get tired of doing the same thing, expecting a different outcome and not? That's insanity, y'all.
Yeah.
That's insanity. And you wouldn't want nobody to call you insane, but what you're doing is insanity.
Yeah.
You know, I think that in the world we live in today, sometimes it takes something very drastic to happen before we get our heads on straight.
Yes.
We all just went through this thing with COVID, and there were people dropping left and right like it was no tomorrow. And it seems like there was a time when people was like, you know, we got to get this right.
Yeah.
But it seems like once everything kind of cleared up, they went back to their same old ways again. And sometimes I feel like I just want to, I don't know, maybe I'll just go get my doctorate and write a dissertation on King's reality therapy. And take some adults. Take some adults and take some kids.
Yeah.
And just have those adults and look at them kids. They just went over there and bumped heads trying to get to the ball, and they were crying for a minute, but then they stood up, hugged each other, and now they're sharing the ball. How can kids get in the y'all game?
Wow.
And to me, it just doesn't make sense, because what we're experiencing here is learned behavior. Because kids don't learn how to fight each other. You put them down somewhere, they be looking at, well, I want the ball. Well, why? They don't cry because they want the ball, but then when you both give them a ball, like they sound like, oh, here's it like mine. And they going about their business. Kids run up to each other in the playground and just hug, no matter what. But then it's the adults that mess everything up. So, yeah, we're not trying to bring anybody down to a level, but sometimes in King's reality therapy, I may have to bring you down to a level to get you to see how easy it can really be, because it doesn't have to be that way. If the adults would stand up and be adults and teach from a proper perspective, it can be better for everybody. But you always, you know, they say you always gonna have that one that want to keep stuff going.
Yeah.
And sometimes that may need to be the branch that get cut off from the tree.
Wow. Come on.
Wow.
Yes.
Jeez.
Broken relationship.
That's it.
That
Cut that branch up. Right.
You know, I'm gonna say this. I'm so proud of our children's generation. I'm so proud of our children's generation. I know for us, we have from 29 down to soon to be 16. And so it's kind of in a sense like two different generations in that age group. To sit down and allow your children to have conversation with you.
Yes.
To share their heart, to see how they think. Just what you were saying. A lot of them, I hate to say this because I'm not trying to discount us, are much more mature in their thinking and behavior than we are. And a lot of times we think that we are because we're older. Age means nothing. Nothing. And so it's like when it comes to these children, they will tell you, no, that's y'all's mess. They'll quick to tell you, my therapist, when I was talking to my therapist said, and it's funny because I watch people our age when you sit down and you're watching this conversation play out in public or whatever. And I'm like, I wonder how they're going to take this being a therapist. I wonder how they're going to take this. And so they looking like, what you mean your therapist? Why are you talking like that? All out in the open. Don't be telling nobody you going to counseling, And it's like, why not? I go to the doctor.
Yeah.
I go to the dentist and I'm just like, these are out of the mouth of babes. These are kids saying this. So I know we have a shift, that the paradigm shift that our generation, 40 something, 50 something, that we're between. But what is stopping us when these children are stepping out so boldly and saying, I'm not willing to lose my friendship with my first cousin, who's like a brother, because cousins, we was like siblings. I'm not willing to do that because y'all sitting up acting crazy. Yeah. And our generation want to go like the old school and knock fire and taste out your mouth. But you can't do that because you'll go to jail. So with that being said, why can't we talk about this generation being lazy? But I'm going to be honest, a lot of them are a lot smarter. It's not that they're being lazy, sassy, and all that kind of stuff, back talking and disrespectful. They're speaking common sense that you're not willing to accept. Because you want to keep the foolery going.
They speaking the truth.
Come on. They walking the truth that you're not willing to walk.
Yes.
Oh, my God.
Because they know who they are.
That part.
That's why.
And if they didn't get it from us, where did they learn it from?
They went to
therapy.
Talk.Therapy.Heal.
Listen. They listen to Talk.Therapy.Heal on YouTube.
Yes. So
wow.
This brings us to a close of this topic, y'all, how to pair broken relationships. I feel like we really honed in on what it means to have a broken relationship, how to fix it, some tools that they can utilize to fix it. Do y'all feel like we left anything out as it pertains to broken relationships?
Yeah.
This may be a little harsh for individuals, but you can't fix everything.
That.
Sometimes you just got to fix yourself. Some other people have to be accountable for their brokenness. If they're not willing to move forward and get the help that they need, then you fix yourself, you become whole, and you move forward.
Exactly.
That's good.
Exactly. I would say, too, that you are only in control of you. You cannot control anyone else.
Yeah.
You can't make anybody do anything else. Only you. You are in control of you. So we thank you all so much for joining us here at Talk.Therapy.Heal. And we hope that something that we said today or in this episode enlightened you, touched you in some kind of way that makes you want to repair any broken relationship that you may have, or make that decision that maybe it's time to dissolve that relationship and being okay with that. So if there's any questions that you all might have, please drop them down in the comment section for us, and one of us will respond back to you. But before you jump off of here and end this thing, we want you all to remember to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell.
Tell somebody about us.
Yes. Tell somebody. Spread the word, y'all. Spread the word. Don't be stingy now.
Have the conversation.
Yes. So thank you again for joining us here on Talk Therapy Heal. We'll see you next time.
Bye.